Hello, Thelia, right? And Nevaeh. How are you guys doing? How far did you get on your quilts? Can we see? Do you want to show?
Oh,
Whoa,
wow, Thelia, look at you.
awesome.
Oh my gosh.
You did so great. And I mean, you spaced everything out so well. It looks really, really good. Really good. Did you enjoy the process? Was it fun? Yes, good. Good. We'll wait a few minutes. Can you hear me okay? The speaker's right here. It's a little bit far away this time, but can you hear me? Am I loud enough? Okay, good. Good, good. We'll wait a few minutes for other people to log on, and then I'll give you the next steps, which isn't going to be too hard, I don't think. Do you have any questions about the last week and what did you thread the needle and tie a knot? Okay. Do you have any questions at all? No? Okay. What time is it?
It's just 7:05. I didn't realize they had so many colors in that kit. It's like a rainbow.
Yeah, I
Rainbow.
love these kits that have all of these. When I look for them, I look for the ones that have the bigger bolts of
Yeah,
bolt.
yeah.
Is that called a bolt, you think? It's not really a
Spool?
bolt.
Bolt?
A spool. It's a bolt of fabric and a spool of thread.
A bolt of thread. I kind of like that though.
Yeah, because some teeny tiny spools of thread.
Kelsey. Nevaeh says, how many rows? Oops. Oh gosh, not FaceTime. Nevaeh says, how many rows am I supposed to have because she only has one row done?
Well, I know it's different for everybody. All of us have different amounts of free time. So we only have today, we have the class tonight, and then we have one more week. And then that's it. And I'll have given you all of the instructions. So the amount of time it takes for you to finish it's up to you. It just depends on how much time you have to work on your quilt. So if you have the one row done, you will have, here's mine, you'll have 6 more rows to go. Okay, and then it's upside down. So after you sew all the rows together, all the squares, row 1, 2, 3, then you'll sew the rows to each other. So you'll sew row 1 and 2 together, and then 2 and 3 together. So it just depends. And remember, if it takes you a lot longer than our class to get it finished, that's okay. but I really, really hope that you do get it finished, because there's that sense of pride when you finished it and you have the finished piece and you have something that you can hold and cuddle with. It's just a really, really, really good feeling. So if you don't get finished by the end of our class, that's okay, because I'm always available. I'm available on Facebook and Messenger or wherever. If you have questions or you need help after the class is over. Um, yeah. So in order to catch up to where we are today, you would need all of these sewn together, but it's okay. I am going to show the next step today though, and I already did 3 of my borders. So you have 2 more, you have 3 more pieces, different kinds of fabric. You'll have these, the thicker ones, the thicker strips. I think these are 3.5 inches or 3.25 inches. So you'll have the more narrow one and the thicker one. So just make sure that you're using the thicker one that is for the border. Okay. And I can't tell you which fabric it is because everybody's is different. So I don't even know if anybody has the same border as I do. But I did the other 3 so you can see what it will look like with that border around it. But what you do after you have all of your rows sewn together, okay, and you're ready to do your borders, it's just the same way as when you sew your rows together. It's just the same thing basically. So you get your border fabric, and it's a lot longer than your row is. And that is so you can overlap it on the edges, and you're going to cut some off of the end. But so it's going to be this way. It's going to be laying that way once it's sewn together. But to sew it, you flip it, it's face to face, right? So to make sure that it's good and straight, you're going to use either your pins or your clips. We don't have enough clips to do all of them, but make sure that it lines up at the end where your seams are. So I'm going to do a pin there, and I'm going to make sure that it's pulled, not tight, but pulled to where it's flat, completely flat, right? And I'm going to do a pin at every seam. And that just ensures that when you go to sewing, it doesn't get off track, right? And everything is good and smooth and flush at the end. So I'm just going to do that all the way across where all the seams are. And just be careful of these pins because they can be pretty sharp, especially when you're sewing away and you forget about them. So just pay attention. Pay attention, remember that they're there and not to get poked. Because that's no fun when you get poked. It's gonna happen though. It's gonna happen, you're gonna get poked, but it's okay. Usually it's not so bad. Now, when you get your first one on, your first border on, and you move over to your next one, you already have a border here. It's already sewn. What you're going to do is just make sure that it's good and straight, whatever excess here is at the end, and you're going to sew your new one right onto the other one. Okay, so when you open it up, it's gonna look like this. Because on the back, you'll see I just sewed it. I just sewed it all the way across, and then when you open it up, it's just sewn to the other one. So you don't have to worry about like making perfect corners. You don't have to do that. Maybe down the road you can do that and do the angles, the perfect angle and all that stuff, but it's not necessary. I know quilters who have been quilting for a long time who do it just this way. Just make sure that it's straight, that it's going straight across over top of the other one. And you'll want to make sure too when you do this that, and before we go to the next step, that your seams are all ironed and it's all good and straight and flat as it can be when it's laying on a surface. Because if not, then it'll bunch up and it won't be completely smooth and flush. Okay, so after you do that, after you pin it, then you'll just do the same way as when you sew the squares together. You'll just start on the back, right in the main corner, 1/4 inch from the end or the edge, and you'll sew all the way across. So did you guys see as you went along that your stitches got a little closer together and about the same size, more consistent, all that? Because I want to hear about your experience. I want to hear about how it went for you. How was it tough? Was it hard? Was it fun or relaxing? Let me know how it was, how it's been this week for you. I want to know. I don't get a whole lot of feedback from these classes, and I want to know.
I thought it was very relaxing and very, very satisfying. Like when I look, I'm on my second to last row, and when I look at it, I feel so proud.
Yay, good. Very good. There's just something about making something from nothing that is just so satisfying and so rewarding. You know, I talk about how this hand stitching or hand quilting is, you know, not a whole lot of people do it anymore, and why it's important to me that it continues. And it's important to me because, you know, a long time ago, we did this out of necessity because we just used what we had, right? And we didn't have sewing machines. We couldn't afford a sewing machine, you know, whatever reason. And so our grandmothers and grandfathers in some cases did this quilting. And it's not so much necessary anymore because we have machines, but it's still important because it's a part of who we are. It's a part of our heritage, you know? And I think it's so neat when I see old quilts that were made out of just what they had. You know, you could tell that they were made out of clothing. And one of the really, really cool things from back in the day when they would make sacks, like flour sacks and feed sacks and things with pretty material, because they discovered that folks were making their kids' dresses out of their sacks. So to me, it's just This is really important. It's something really important that we want to keep around and keep going and keep moving it forward. Okay, so I don't know that I will sew all the way across for this, because I want to give you the next step too, just because we only have one more class to go, and this next one is a big one and it's going to be time consuming. So if you guys get your borders on, then you can go ahead and move to the next step. So just a minute longer and then I'll move on to that. Do you guys have any thoughts or any questions while we're doing this? You know, women used to get together because it's, especially big old quilts. Imagine a big old quilt that's on a big old full-size bed or a king-size bed. How long it would take to make a quilt. So women used to get together, and I shouldn't say just women. People would get together and they would work together. They would all just sit around and work together at a big old table, and everybody would be sewing.
My dad used to help my grandmother with
Really?
quilting.
Yeah. See?
Yeah.
See, so I shouldn't just say
Oh,
women.
no.
And I just love that. That's something that is rare these days, for women just to get together and imagine the conversations. Not women, people get together. Imagine what they talked about. Just being around other people and working on something. What I like about the fabric store where I work, I'm there once a week, and the day that I'm there, there's a group that comes in and makes quilts for people who are like veterans or who are battling something real hard. They'll come together and make them a quilt. And I just love, I'm not a part of that, but I kind of am, because I get to be there, you know, while it's happening. And it's really, really special. And there's space for people to come in and just sit and work together and work on something or learn or whatever anybody needs. Quilting needs, it's there. So I'm happy that I get to be a part of that, and I'm happy that I get to be a part of this. Just feel very blessed by that. Okay, I'm almost to the end of my thread here, and I'm gonna tie it off and then move on to the next step, even though I know we're not finished. Okay, so after you have all of your borders done and you're ready for the next step, you have all of your seams ironed, what you're gonna do is you're gonna first lay down, find a place where you can lay all this out, right? Whether it be the floor a bed, a big old table, wherever you have with space to do this. So you're going to take your back, that's your big old piece of fabric, and you're going to lay, I know you can't hardly see, but this is the print side, and that's going to go down. So the print side is down.
You can move it.
You're going to make sure, you might want to iron it, make sure that there's no wrinkles in it, no folds, because this needs to be as flat as you can get it. As flat as you can get it. So once you got it good and flat and there's no wrinkles, and when I get home, I'll iron this so there's no wrinkles in it. And then you're going to get your batting, which is, the soft, fluffy stuff. And that goes in the middle. So you're just going to lay that on top of your backing. And the same thing, you're just going to make sure that that is stretching around on all four sides, and make sure that it's good and smooth and you don't feel no wrinkles inside there or underneath. And you can feel real easy if there's a wrinkle, even on your backing, you can feel it through the batting. Lots of B words. Backing and batting and binding. And now I got a little worried after I got my 3 borders on when I was at home that the quilt was going to be a little bit bigger than the batting, and I had my husband help me, and I'm pretty sure it's exact, the exact length. It's a little bit longer in the width, but the exact length that we need it to be. Okay, so once that is smooth, completely smooth, you don't feel no wrinkles at all in there. Then you get this is your quilt top, what we've just finished. We'll imagine that we've just finished that. And you're going to lay that on top of your batting. And same thing, you're just going to smooth it out all the way over. And make sure there's no wrinkles in it. And it should be good and flat because all these seams were ironed. No wrinkles there. Okay. So now here at the bottom, just make sure that your batting lines up with the bottom of your quilt. If not, it gives a little bit, so you can pull it down so that it lines up at least with the bottom. You don't pull it hard, just pull it a little bit and make sure that it just comes to the edge. Okay. Now, when you are happy with that and it's exactly where it needs to be, there's no wrinkles, no folds, no places where it like bunches up, then you're going to pin it. You're going to pin all 3 of them together. So you just get your pins and start in one corner and then just go around. It's up to you how many you put in there. You'll want quite a few to keep it together and make sure that it doesn't come apart at all. So I'd say maybe about 5 or 6 around each side. Now be thinking about what color you want to use, what color thread you want to use for your quilting. Because the thread that we use to sew the squares together and sew the border on, we can't see that. But whatever thread you decide to use for the quilting, you're going to see it. And it's going to, depending on what color you choose, it may change the whole look of your quilt. So some people like to use this light gray or silver thread, this one, because it looks like invisible and you can't see it. So on mine, other than like the dark squares, the red or the gray, the dark gray squares, you're not going to hardly see it at all. You'll barely be able to see it. And keep in mind too, whatever color your back is, if I use this gray on my back, which my back is like a light blue and a gray, the same color as the thread, so you're not going to be able to see it at all. You may want to, and it's up to you. This is your creation, right? So you can do whatever you want to. Mine has these pops of red, right? There's the little cardinals and the red scarves, and I could do red. I could do a red thread if I want to be, yeah, like
Very beautiful.
yeah. There's these Christmas lights, and there's green or this blue, like a brighter blue than what's in here. So the options are, it's whatever you want your quilt to look like. Just know that you're going to be able to see these stitches. The next thing for you to decide is, once you pick out what color thread you're going to use, how are you going to quilt your blanket? So there's something called stitch in the ditch. And what you would do is, here in the creases where all of the squares line up, you would just kind of stitch right inside there or right along with that line. So you won't really hardly see those. You'll see them, but they're just right along with that, so they won't be too very visible. You could do that. One of my favorite things to do, because I'm not very good at straight lines. I'm not good at straight lines at all. So I like to intentionally do wavy lines.
Oh, cool.
And so when I do that, I don't have to worry about my lines being straight, and it looks like I did it on purpose. So, and that's what I do. And you can use the pencil again if you want to like draw it on there. If you want to draw, you can do whatever you want to for this. You can do like a snowflake pattern. Ooh. On every other square. All right, so the purpose of quilting the three together is so it doesn't come apart, right? So when it gets dirty or it just needs washed, you can wash it over and over and it's not going to fall apart. The layers aren't going to come apart. So the stitches need to be, I would do at least on the creases right here, or if you're wanting to sew on the squares, do every other square, and that should be good enough to keep it all together. You could do like a square inside of a square on every other one. You could do diagonal, you could do like X's inside here. Whatever you come up with, you could do. So that stitch is going to be the same as when we sew the squares together. So really, really experienced quilters like to do like 10 stitches per inch or more, which is really, really, really hard to do and really, really, really time consuming. But there's also what is called it's a large stitch, which is just that. It's just big stitches. So you don't have to worry about those teeny, teeny, tiny stitches. Not if you don't want to. So I know these little spools of thread, it's hard to find your thread, the one you're looking for. Ooh, I don't know if I can find it on this one. No, it ain't. Well, so I'll go with maybe another one. Thread another needle since my other one is black. Okay. So on the borders, you're gonna want to at least do one stitch on your border across or however, because you're gonna sew the binding on over here. There's gonna be a stitch at the main end, so there needs to be at least one more about down here. So I'm gonna start here on my white part just so you can see my stitch. So you're gonna hold it just like you do when you sew the squares together with your thumb and your pointer finger just to guide where the stitches are. And you're gonna make those stitches however small or however big you want to. So the important thing for when you do the quilting on the outside is that your stitches on the front and the back are consistent, because it's hard, or sometimes it's easy to get caught up in what it looks like on the front and not pay attention to how far your stitches are on the back. So even the times that I've hand quilted, it still takes me a little while to get in the groove, right, or in the flow of it. You want to start on the back, by the way, not the front, like I did. Okay, so my little stitches here are about the same distance from one another. And I'm going to go with just the wavy lines, like I like to do. And then on the back, you can barely see because my thread is gray. But depending on what color you use, you'll want to just make sure that those stitches are really consistent. And I'm just going to do that all the way across. And I'll probably do one more here on this row again, about right here, another wavy line, and then do the same thing all the way across. And that's it. So that's what you do this week. And like I said, Nevaeh, if you don't get all of it done, don't worry. Don't try not to feel overwhelmed or like it's too much for you to get it finished. We got to be patient with ourselves, and it takes time. It takes time, and that's okay. So take all the time you need and make that commitment to get it finished, because I promise you'll be so happy and so proud when you do. Yeah. So you guys, I know Kelsey, you know how to get in touch with me if you need anything. Um, I know Thelia, your mom has me on Facebook if she needs to ask me any questions, or you need to ask me any questions. Nevaeh, if you need anything, let me know. There's the email with my information on it. So if you have any questions throughout the week, please don't hesitate to let me know. Send me pictures, send me messages, whatever. If you need to like FaceTime, whatever, if you need my help, I'm more than happy to help you so that we can get these finished, because they're going to be so beautiful and I'm excited.
Amazing.
Yeah, they're going to be great.
Amazing.
So do you guys have any questions at all? I feel like this has been a really short class, but there's a lot to do. You have any questions?
I can't wait to see the finished products.
Yay! So I'll see you all next Monday, and
Yeah.
we'll do the last step, which is not that hard of a one. It's just one little small thing. Do a
Nice.
border around the outside, and we're done.
Yeah.
So I'll see you then. Let me know if you need anything.
Bye, friends. See you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Amy. Bye. Bye, Amy, and bye, Julia. Bye, Kelsey. Bye, Nevaeh.